definitely help, as I said, getting that whole monstrosity in.
We had a guy in the neighborhood that used to play golf, and he would wear the most outrageous clothes. We called him.
We're ready whenever you are, ma'am.
Pants.
Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'm gonna call this meeting to order and ask everybody to please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and everyone make sure your phones are on vibrate. We have approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything to add to or take out? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So moved.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any discussion? Motion carries. New staff introductions.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I have two introductions for you. Mr. Rogers, you want to stand up?
Chief, is your mic on?
There you go.
Mr. Roger Roselle, he's married to his wife Tiffany, has one child, Mila. He grew up in Battle Creek, Michigan, where he started his career just over 20 years ago. He served as a critical care medic, instructor, tactical medic, and firefighter. Then he joined Lynchburg, where he took the job as fire medic and joined their technical rescue team. He moved to Pender County in late 2021, and early 2022, he joined Pender EMS and Fire, and he served there as a captain. He's our new training and safety captain here, and he's also over all our special operations. Glad to have you, Roger.
Did you make Kellogg's cornflakes? Did you make Kellogg's cornflakes?
What did they say your son's name was?
His daughter.
Leela.
Mila.
Okay, I thought we had another Leland. Okay, I was just checking. Okay.
But one.
Thank you and welcome, like I said.
The next introduction is Lee Kennedy. He's married to his wife Kelly, has 2 children and 1 grandchild. He comes to us from North Carolina Office of State Fire Marshal. He was our ratings inspector for the last 8 years. He is our new Deputy Chief of Operations.
Wow, welcome.
Sir.
Really impressive resume.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Good morning.
afternoon.
Yeah, exactly, right? Afternoon, everybody. Glad to see you again. I'm happy to introduce one individual from the planning department, Mr. Brian Renner. He is our new code enforcement officer. He has most recently been at the city of Wilmington. He was serving a team of 8 people over there, 6 other officers, as well as 2 administrative staff over the last 7 years. He's originally from Indiana. After a brief stint of college, he actually joined the Army, came down here to Fort Bragg, mostly serving as the military police out that way. He went back to Indiana, where he got a job over at the city of Indianapolis, as well as going to school for a bachelor's of sustainability and management and policy from Indiana University / Purdue University. After 2 years about that, he came back down here and moved back to Wilmington, where he started his career in the city. He does live in the Wilmington area with his wife and 2 dogs, and he enjoys landscaping around his house when not working.
Fellow Army brother. Welcome.
Is that the new dress code for code enforcement?
We're going to, yeah.
Going all the way.
That's all I have for tonight.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I am pleased to introduce Tricia. Tricia is our new Purchasing and Contract Supervisor for the Finance Department. She joins the town of Leland with 15 years local government experience in payroll, purchasing, contracting, finance, and administration. She actually recently received her designation as Certified Local Government Purchasing Officer. Tricia is a native of Wilmington. She's a current Burgaw resident, so make sure you go to the Blueberry Festival, and also a proud UNC Chapel Hill alumni. She enjoys the beach, boating, cooking, spending time with family and pets. She's the proud mother of 2 ECU college students, daughter and a son, both pursuing degrees in construction management. Trisha's thrilled to join the Leland team and support the town's growing community. So welcome, Trisha.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Hi there.
We are pleased to introduce Jesse McKinley. He's a street maintenance tech 2 for Public Works. He's originally from Pikeville, Kentucky, but he moved here for the U.S. Marine Corps. And while at the Marine Corps, he helped to build one of the biggest gun ranges at Camp Lejeune. He's married with 2 kids. He lives here in Leland. When he's not working or chasing after his kids, he likes to golf, go to the gym, fish, and sports. So we're excited to have him on our team.
Welcome, honey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. That it? Well, welcome all of you to the team. All right, next we have presentation, fiscal year 25-26 grant update. Hey.
Noon.
Tell us about the money.
That's it.
Me the money. Today we are going to talk about the fiscal year 25-26 grants. We're going to start with an introduction, the grant applications submitted, grants awarded, the grant funded projects in progress, and the grants that we have closed out. The town of Leland actively seeks funding to support projects. On this screen, you can see a brief overview of a grant life cycle. This is very brief. First, we have a plan or a project. We find funding for the project. We submit an application. We accept the award. We manage the grant, and then we close it out. Now, please be aware of 2 things. Every grant is different, and it can take a long time from application to acceptance of award. That can take years. We have a couple in that time frame right now. And from application to closeout can also take years. You'll see that later on in the presentation.
Okay.
In fiscal year 25-26, my slide disappeared, but we applied for 34 grants. 6 were state, 14 were private, and 14 were federal. Here on the list before you are the private funded grant applications we submitted. I'll let you go ahead and read through that. Let me know if you have any questions about any of these applications. I know there's a lot. I was busy. Here's some more private funded applications. If you notice some of them are on there twice, it's because I'm kind of stubborn and they have to tell me no a couple times before I give up.
I have to say that the League of Municipalities is taking credit for the grant that they awarded us. They have a posting on social media today.
Yes.
Regarding that high mobility vehicle.
Yes, and actually, in fiscal year 25-26, we received 3 from them.
Good going.
Here are the state-funded applications we submitted. Again, I'll let you look through them if you have any questions or comments. We'll move on to the federal-funded grant applications. From the federal, you can see that we do apply to a lot of FEMA project or funding opportunities. If you look at the last 2, those are both hazard mitigation grant projects. One is for Stony Creek, which was part of the PCTA application, and the other is through resiliency, and that is to hopefully get funded to move the lift station on South Navassa. And some more federal funded. Here are the grants that we were awarded in 25-26. 6 were private grants, 3 were state grants, and 2 were federal grants. As you can see from the graphs, most of the funding comes from the federal. And here we have a list of the grants that were awarded in 25-26. Let's move on to grant projects in progress. We're going to start with the Gateway District Utility relocation of overhead power and utilities to underground. This is in the design phase, and we were awarded this in April of 2023. The Leland Unpaved Road Improvements Project includes paving Bremen Lane, John Sneed Lane, Graham Drive, and Appleton Way. This project is in the design phase, and we were awarded in July of 2024. The Founders Park project included multiple improvements such as the splash pad, the playground, walking trails, Veterans Memorial, and there were several grants that contributed to this. Excuse me. The Bike Amenities Program was awarded in July of 2024. The LTDA was awarded in October of 2023. The Level 2 charging station was awarded in June of 2022. The LTDA was awarded in September of 2024, and Part F was awarded in August of 2022. But overall, this project is in the closeout stage.
What's the total amount for Founders Park? Do you have that handy? Adding all those together?
I just submitted a reimbursement request. It was 4.5 million, but that did not include the playground for Part F. I can get you the exact number, but I'm just work with just the grants, so I'm not entire. I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to give it all to you at once.
And I'm asking you a question that I know takes a lot of digging off the top of your head. So if you can just get that, or you or someone from staff, Mr. Hollis, can just get that later on. I'm just curious because I remember my time being on Parks and Recs and how long this has taken.
Yes.
And I know we went after a number of grants to try to lower the cost. So I'm just curious now, as we are getting towards closeout, how much of it we actually were able to get through grants.
Okay, yes, I can get that for you. The next project in progress is the Low Country Boulevard culvert improvement, where we are going to replace the undersized cross pipes on Low Country Boulevard. This project is in the design phase. We were originally awarded $1 million in May of 2024, and we were awarded again in February of 2026 for $400,000. The Stream Flow Rehabilitation Assistant Program, STRAP, is the removal of vegetative debris from Jackie's Creek. This project is in the closeout phase, and this was awarded in September of 2024. The Brownfield program is part of the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, which we were awarded in July of 2023. This is the environmental testing of the grounds for the future Sturgeon Creek Park. The Sturgeon Creek Boardwalk and Dock project includes a floating dock and a boardwalk. This project is at the end of the RFQ stage. Will Lear will be up to talk more about that in a minute. This was part of the Part F grant again, and it was awarded in August of 2025. On to the US Highway 17 pedestrian crossing. This is a project to put a pedestrian crossing across Highway 17 at Plouffe Road and Old Waterford Way. This project is in the right-of-way phase, and the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program was awarded in November of 2022. The CDBGNR is the rehabilitation of substandard housing. This project is ongoing, and it was awarded in October of 2022. Here we have a list of grants that we closed out fiscal year 25-26. You can see the dates of the award and when it was officially closed out. And one more on there. So overall, we had a very good year grant-wise. We researched 62 grants. We applied for 34. Of those 34, we're awaiting notification on 15. We are awarded 11 grants. The amount awarded is a little over $4.3 million, and the outstanding potential funding is a little over $26.6 million.
Wow. That's awesome.
It's a fun part. I think I have the best job here.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Anyone?
What grants, and I know each of them is different, but overall, I know federal grants are a pain to manage in general. How do state grants stack up to that?
It depends. One of the problems with grants is when you go in to monitor them, each one has a different system, a different login, and so learning those is probably the hardest part. But once you get a handle on that, it becomes much easier. But you do have to follow all the compliance and make sure we're hitting the criteria of the NOFO.
Okay. And again, I know from work I've done, one being with the federal government, but also being part of a nonprofit that goes for federal grants, that the federal ones are painful to manage. To put it,
I like to say challenging.
challenging is a word, yes, that fits as well, but I'll go with painful for now.
Okay.
But yeah. So thank you for what you do, because for folks who don't know, it is incredibly challenging to have all of those grants that you're responsible for, making sure that we meet, hit all of the deadlines, make sure that we're meeting all the criteria, because if we don't, they can take the money away, and you probably won't ever get a grant from that organization or entity ever again. So on behalf of me, thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you, but I have a great team that I work with. Couldn't do this by myself. There's some great people here.
Thank you and your team. Okay, thank you. Next, we have closed session. What would we be going in for? Josh or Steve? Please.
Madam Mayor, my recommendation is the council go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3 for the purposes of having attorney-client privilege communications with respect to potential claims relative to annexation and door-to-door solicitation matters.
So moved.
Anything else?
So moved.
Okay, so. Can I have a motion
So moved.
for the motion?
Aye.
Motion carries.
anymore, as we're not a proprietary fund. So I to make the budget not look so inflated with those unused expenses, and then also that unearned revenue that was really never a revenue. So just a reporting change. Any questions on that budget amendment?
Okay, anyone? Good job.
The next item is Resolution 26-004, adopting financial policies for the town of Leland. We discussed a lot of these last month, but this would be adopting a capital asset threshold policy, a debt management policy, a fund balance policy, the independent audit contract policy that we discussed last month, the investment policy, sponsorship policy, and then the write-off of uncollectible debts accounts policy. I just did want to note on the independent audit contract policy, we discussed with the state auditor what his recommendation was for switching auditors, and he said every 5 years, so that's the number that we used in that one. And then one policy that we did not discuss, but we added in here, the capital asset threshold policy was changing our capital assets from 5,000 to 10,000. Really with just the price of things, things that used to cost 2,000 are not now costing 5,000 or 6,000, and so we're having to capitalize and then depreciate a lot of things. So this just cuts out some of that extra work for the items in between 5,000 and 10,000. We've seen a lot of our peer municipalities make that change, so we are looking to make that change as well. Happy to answer any questions on those policies that you may have.
Bob?
Yes. So I had a couple of notes here. On page 7 of 17, long-term debt, it says shall not be used to finance ongoing operational expenses and must be repaid throughout the useful life of the asset. So the life of the debt was directly related then to the useful life of the asset, but who determines when that asset is no longer useful?
I think that we would probably look to determine how long we're expected to use it when we're issuing the debt, but the intent of that verbiage to say that is to say that we're not going to issue debt for operational expenses. So if we need to, pay our air conditioning bill, we're not going to seek debt. We're going to seek debt for capital projects or capital purchases, but not for ongoing operating expenses. Our fixed asset policy lists the natural life cycle of items. So we say that roads are 20 years, hence our 20-year life cycle. I believe buildings are 25 years. So we would just use our natural fixed asset listings to determine what our guess is for the estimate of the life.
So to be a little more specific, let's just pick a fire truck.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Got that?
Yep.
Okay. So let's just pick a fire truck. And I just went out of my thing. So we're saying that if we borrow money for that fire truck, that the term would not be any longer than the life expectancy of the truck. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But we would always seek to have it shorter. So
yes,
fire trucks we financed for 5 years, we expect to use them longer than 5 years, but we would never finance a fire truck for 20 years, even though we just used a couple fire trucks for 20 years. Our intent is that a fire truck would not last 20 years. So we wouldn't want to finance a capital project longer than what we are expecting its life to be.
okay. So, and if something happened to that asset before the end of the expected life cycle, how does that affect that debt would already be incurred, is that correct?
Correct. So like if one of our fire trucks was in an accident right now that we still had debt on, we would use insurance proceeds to have to pay off that fire truck and then would purchase a new fire truck.
Okay. One more. Page 9 of 19 says minimum long-term rating requirements.
Page 9.
Wait, I'll wait for everybody to get there.
Yeah, so this is just basically dictating who we're going to use when we're investing funds. So we're not going to borrow money from an agency without a good standing. And then sometimes, so like when we got the limited obligation bonds, for example, we received that money and then we invested that money with Capital Trust before we spent it. So this is dictating what the credit rating is of the agency that we would invest those proceeds with in the short time we have them prior to spending them.
Okay, so I was not clear in the fact that the credit rating was for the agency and not for the town.
Correct.
Okay. So I got a little angst with the last sentence there. It says, if credit enhancement is unavailable or declared uneconomic by the finance director, then obligations may be used without a rating.
We just then would not invest those debt proceeds while waiting to spend them. So if we're not unable to get a good rating agency to invest our funds during the waiting period between spending, we would just then not invest them. We would hold them in an operating account.
Because I interpreted that as saying, well, we couldn't find anybody with an A rating, so we'll do whatever.
Yeah, we just wouldn't invest. So like our lobs right now, we have them in a Capital Trust account, so they're earning interest.
Mm-hmm.
If we could not find an agency that met our expectations, we would have just put them in an operating account or an account that did not receive interest on those earnings.
As opposed to going to a B-rated.
Correct, or
firm.
someone unrated.
Or someone unrated, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Frank?
Under the independent audit contract policy, page 13 of 19. Now, I know we had a long discussion last meeting about the fact that we've used our current auditor for 12 consecutive years, but now we're going to put a policy in place that says we're not going to use them for more than 5. Do you think that's the right number, or should it be lower? Because
That's the number we got from the state auditor.
I understand, just because that's what you can do doesn't mean you should do it. So we have the ability to be even more restrictive if we want to be more transparent. So most companies in the private sector, they would go substantially less than 5 years. So I would look to have that number probably 2 or 3.
That's a council decision. We're happy to change that to whatever council determines is best.
Okay. Are we going to discuss that now, or we just keep moving on?
Well, if y'all want to discuss it.
I'll say that I'm happy with the fact that the staff went to the auditor. I believe the auditor knows probably more than we do, but I do know from being on the Risk Management Trust Fund for the League that finding qualified audit agencies that have been approved by the Local Governments Commission is becoming harder and harder in the state of North Carolina, and that's probably why he went with 5 years. I don't know that, I do know that I would not use the word transparent, because I think more so than transparent, it's just a matter of ensuring that you have different sets of eyes on your audit ability, and that you're ensuring that you're not becoming comfortable. So there's a different wording that I would choose there if it were me. And so knowing the problems that nonprofit agencies as well as municipalities are having finding qualified auditors that have been not just qualified, but have been approved by the Local Governments Commission to do audits. 5 years is certainly better than what we've been doing, and I would go with that. So that's my 2 cents.
You know, Mayors Association, there's a lot of mayors that they can't find auditors, and they're asking people, you know, can you refer people to us? And it's not just 2 or 3, it's a lot of them.
Mr. Pemberton's got it.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Here lately, we've heard often, well, in private sector, this is where they do that, or this happens, and that's not what you're doing. Well, I don't believe that you can always compare what goes on in the private sector with what goes on in the government sector. I agree that there should be a standard choice in when we choose an auditor, and I think based on the state's recommendation, who have been around a lot longer than I have, based on their recommendation, I think 5 years is fine. I think it works. It accomplishes what we want to accomplish. You've got an auditor that, or will always have an auditor that has been pre-approved by the state. So I think that qualifies us to stay within that 5-year limit.
Anyone else?
Mr. Campbell, I agree that there should be some inherent differences between the public and the private sector. However, the private sector, companies operate on a profit, and they operate profitably for a reason, or they go out of business. In the public sector, we're playing with house money. We're using tax dollars to fund projects, and I think we have a greater responsibility as a fiduciary handler of that money to make sure we're going over and above to be transparent and to make sure we're not being comfortable. I expressed my concern at the last meeting that we had used the same audit company for 12 years. I think 2 years would be a correct number to rotate through. We did an RFP. We had a number of companies that responded. I mean, I don't feel even comfortable with 5 years. I don't think we've accomplished what we intend to do. But I'm not going to belabor the point.
Veronica?
Again, words have meaning. So when we say things like people, profitable and businesses stay in business, towns stay in business too. And towns aren't meant to be profitable, but they certainly are meant to ensure that their budgets are complied with. And at least some of us who've been in office a year or more have realized that there have been towns in North Carolina who have not met that requirement. And they have been found by the Local Governments Commission and put on a list where they literally cannot make a purchase without the Local Governments Commission approval. And so they are held to the same standards of transparency as well as accountability as are for-profit agencies, if not more, because in a for-profit business, no one is put on a list where they literally cannot pay a bill or write a check without a different agency, a higher level agency, accounting for that dollar or cents. And I believe it's called the Unit Assistance List, if I'm correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Haig, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There have been towns who've lost charters, who no longer cease to exist. And that, of course, happens in the for-profit world when you go out of business. So we have towns that go out of business when they can't meet that requirement. We have a requirement constitutionally to have a balanced budget. For-profit businesses don't have that necessarily. Frankly, the federal government doesn't have that. Frankly, apparently the state doesn't have that, because we can go without a budget for more than a year or two and still exist. So again, words have meaning, and people are listening to this, and this is becoming public record. And so I think I want to make sure that that our constituents understand we're not playing here with anybody's money, house money or otherwise. We're not playing with tax dollars, that everything is transparent. I think we have one of the more transparent budget books in the state of North Carolina. Our staff has won awards for its budget book, and I appreciate that. And so I, again, stand by the fact that based on the number of approved auditors in the state and the difficulties that municipalities and counties are having, because we're all using those same audit agencies, finding auditors, that 5 years seems to be a reasonable amount, and we should go forward with that.
I appreciate that.
I just did want to say that this doesn't mean you have to stay with someone for 5 years. This is just the maximum, and council does have to approve the audit contract every year. So this doesn't say that right now, if you approve this policy, you're approving a 5-year contract with any audit firm. Every year, the board looks at the audit contract and chooses whether to approve or deny it. So I just wanted to note that you could go less than 5 years. And honestly, it is council's decision. You could go more than 5 years. You could break your own policy, or you could change your policy at any time. So I did just want to note that this doesn't lock you in to 5 years for anyone.
Something else to say?
Leland's got it.
Ms. Hag, I think you just answered my question. Again, we have an RFP every year. We have the opportunity.
Not an RFP every year. You could if you wanted to. You could direct staff to do an RFP every year. But we do bring you the contract for approval or for consideration every year. So the board at any time could tell us or instruct us to do an RFP, even if it's a year where we weren't required to do an RFP.
And this simply says that the person who has done perhaps the last 5 audits would not be eligible to submit an RFP in year 6.
Correct. So we will issue an RFP next year because this audit firm would no longer be eligible. And the year after, you could instruct us to do it again, or we could do it again at council's discretion.
Thank you.
I will note that 7 or 8 years ago, another town from right here in our area could not get an auditor in time for the cutoff, and they were kind of blasted in the newspaper and everything else. Veronica?
No, I got,
Okay.
if I can, one more comment. I realize that when we put the RFP out, we did get numerous proposals. To me, it's that I kind of look at it a bit like going to buy a car. I can come tell you I want to buy a car, and you can sell me a 12-year-old Yugo, or you can sell me a new Mercedes, and just because it's a car, I got to consider, is that something that's going to be quality? Is it going to be what I want? Is it going to meet my needs? And I think when you're looking at an RFP, particularly some of those that we got that appeared to be less than sterling, I'll put it that way, that out of all of that, we have to pick the one that we think is the best fit to represent our town and fit our needs. The one that's going to work with staff, has a good reputation, good background, whatever you want, however you want to look at it. So you can get 50 proposals, but out of those 50, you've got to choose one that you think is going to be the best. And sometimes the one that's the best may not, what we're saying now is you're not qualified because you're beyond the limitation. So we're going to accept the one that's maybe not so good, but we'll hope that gets through the year. So I think we have to be careful.
Okay, anyone else on this? Thank you, Carly.
I have something else on this.
On Carly's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Turn your mic on.
I want to go to page 11 on the required fund balance, reserve balance. We for a long time have established 35%, and I'm looking at on page 12 where it talks about we need to return it back to its required level in 36 months. I'm asking if 36 months is the right number of time. I realize that we may dip below 35%. We've been blessed in this area not to have, and I'm fearful of this, the way weather is moving along and seems to be changing, that one day we will have a back-to-back storm or back-to-back occurrence. And I just keep reading and hearing, because a couple of the members of the RMS board are from the West, about the horror stories of the folks out West and not being able to provide, if you will, because they've exhausted their reserve balances of whatever they had, and they still have many, many items they need to purchase to just even get back to what quote-unquote normal looks like, forget moving ahead. So I ask, is 36 months the right number of months to try to restore it back up to 35%, or is 2 years? I just throw that out there again because we live, unfortunately, in an area where, you know, we could have an event, 2 events this year, and then turn around a year later and have another event.
Which has happened.
Okay, but never back to back though. Never. We've had enough time to kind of recoup a little bit. Yeah.
We had Fran and Bertha back to back.
Yeah. So again, I look at that 36-month mark and wonder if that's the right number.
Again, you can dip below it, you can go above it, you can change the policy at any time. It really is to put a guideline in there so that we could look at it during the budget process. In January of a following year, we would say, you know, our fund balance last year was only 30%. If we want to get it back up to 35%, this is how much money it would take. We could decide to divide that by 3 to give us some buffer to move it back up. We could be in the middle of a recession and you all don't want to raise taxes to build up your fund balance. You could have different priorities. We can reevaluate this every year if you wish. This was just to kind of say a number to make sure that we don't ignore the fact that we have fallen below the fund balance.
So it's just a
policy.
mark on the wall for right now.
That's the goal. Right now, we don't say anything about it. We say we can our goal is 35%,
Right.
period. And so again, this is just so that during the budget process, we would come to you and say, you know, you do have this policy. Do you want to make steps at looking back to get to that 35% during this budget process?
Which you've done in the past, regardless. So now we're just putting it in writing.
Yes. And
Okay,
that's
I was
the
just
same-
wondering how we arrived at the 36 months because
I didn't. We looked at a couple policies and saw that some people had only 1 year, some people didn't have any limit at all. We thought that 1 year was kind of way too tight. It kind of forces your hand a little bit, even though you don't really have to act upon it. Picked a number that we thought was fair and not too much time. I think we had like 2 other policies that had some limits in there, and it was a good recommendation by GFOA to put a limit in there, but it didn't have what the limit should be as a recommendation. So again, council's decision if you want to shorten it or eliminate it altogether if you don't want it in that policy.
Madam Mayor, but Councilman Carter, I will say, it does continue to be a major concern, especially as we see headline after headline that FEMA's not funded, that the federal government's not helping to prepare for natural disaster, It worries me greatly that we may be, I don't want to scare anybody, but that we may be on our own even for a short period of time. So I share your concern.
That's true.
Yes, ma'am.
That's true.
Past, I think, 3 budget seasons now, we've really looked at those foundational items during the budget process that kind of build our budget upon that. And one of those is our fund balance, the amount that we have available. So I believe right now a strategic initiative that Public Works is working on is to put that 5% of roads resurfacing into a more formal policy set by council. So this is just doing the same. It's kind of saying we as a council have decided that this is a priority for us to maintain our fund balance and then get it back up if we don't get to that part.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Not on this, I've got.
Okay. All right, thank you, Carly.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I
Yes.
may indulge I ask for the indulgence of council and staff. I'd like to back up to Resolution 26039, 7.42 on the,
Performance guarantee,
I'm sorry?
the performance guarantee, which
Yeah.
742?
No, yes, 7.4.2
Okay.
on the agenda. Line 5 in that, on page 5 of 7, says the security given by the subdivider shall comply with all applicable town ordinances and shall remain in place for a minimum of 2 years from the date of this agreement. The other agreements that we've looked at, particularly on this agenda, says 1 year. Why would this be 2 years?
Good question, Mr. Campbell. By
I
statute,
asked it.
what's that?
That's why I asked it.
Yes, you wouldn't expect anything else. By statute, the developer or the subdivider is able to choose the duration of the agreement. So in this case, they chose 2 years, whereas in other and more commonly, we see 1 year.
So,
So they're essentially saying that they need this agreement to last 2 years because they think it's going to take them up to 2 years to do the improvements.
Okay.
Whereas the other ones are saying, we don't need 2 years, we're probably okay with 1 year.
the developer's deciding that term and not us?
That's
or-
correct. By statute, they're allowed to do that.
Okay,
Okay?
thank
Thanks.
you.
All right, so those are the items on the consent agenda. Again, ask if any of those items should be removed. Mr. Pendleton, you had some concerns about the financial policies. Would you like that item to be removed from the consent agenda? No. Okay. Anyone else on council have any concern, any item that you would want to remove? All right, so that will be our consent agenda for,
And may I say, Madam Mayor, may I say, we respect that. We understand that if it comes off the consent agenda, you would like to be prepared for that. So I think I understand your request.
all right, so that is the consent agenda. We will go then into the action items for Thursday night. These aren't items for us to debate and discuss right now, but we will go over those in general to talk about the process and what we will discuss. First up are board and committee appointments for that.
Yes, Mayor and Council, just a reminder, tomorrow evening is the special meeting where we're going to have the remaining interviews that will take place. I put at the dais this evening a copy of the memo showing the timeline of all of those folks. And I provided you also with a, it sort of can look like a ballot per se, but wanted to talk to you about the fact that we have so many applicants and not really sure how smooth the process it would be with so many potential applicants to try to say that these few may have rise to the top, and should this be more of a discussion for Thursday evening? Wanted to see what you all thought. So it could be nomination and motions.
I think while we don't want to discourage anyone who might be on the losing end of being appointed, that probably the nicest way, the best professional way to do it, because if anybody has any questions, they had an opportunity to talk to these folks during the process, including tomorrow, is that we take the ballot, which we did ask for, and vote on it, and then turn it in, and whoever rises to the number of most votes from all of us is the nominees, and that's what we announce.
Yeah, I think that's the right way too. It's the way we've been doing it, it's been working very well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have a number of appointments, particularly for like Parks and Recs Board, and we don't have that many openings, and so there's gonna be some people who don't get selected. That's not to discourage them from coming back next year.
That's right.
You know, however, if you start open discussions and naming names and questioning qualifications, et cetera, I would feel a little troubled by that if I were sitting in the audience or watching at home. It might discourage me from applying again the following year. So I say this is the most discreet way. It's still public record if somebody wants to look at it, but this is probably the most discreet way to keep people applying for the boards and committees each year.
So I just wanted to state that it could take several rounds of ballot voting too, but we've done that in the past as well. So just want to bring that to your attention. So just for like EDC, you have about 12 people, and let's just say you all chose a person. So then there probably would have to be some conversation that was had at that point, because if nobody is rising to the top. And then also, I did want to mention about, for the Board of Adjustment, we have 4 vacancies and 4 applications. 2 of them would be for the alternates, and so, if you want to continue to still solicit for applications, if you don't want to be filling all 4 seats that night, you don't need to, if that's the pleasure of the board. I just want to bring that to your attention. I mean, they could be, again, we'll have to decide if we do have if you do decide on all four, then you would have to decide which ones were the alternates or not.
Mr. Coggins?
Please also choose the alternates. The alternates can be critical to meeting the requisite quorum requirements. And delay, oftentimes, it costs the applicant a great deal, as well as the town. I know this is a task, but please also nominate the alternates. More often than not, an alternate is sitting.
Are you on?
Yes.
Yeah, and to Mr. Coggins' point, so if there was a hearing brought before a person couldn't be here, the importance of having 5 members present, otherwise we'd have to ask the applicant if they want to reschedule to have a fair trial.
Is there a method or manner you want to make? Let's suppose we wanted to pick all 4 people who applied. Do you want us to put down who we would prefer to be the full-time members versus the alternates? How do you want to work that on the current
That would probably
example
be good if you can do that, then it would.
If we have a preference
It would help with us while we're tallying everything to maybe give a better reading on that result.
Leland?
Understand the process, we would all vote, for example, if it was 2 open positions and 2 alternates, we would all vote. You would come back and tell us that there were not 4 that were picked, but you would tell us the vote tally, is that correct?
Yes.
And, okay, so that way we might, okay.
But based on what Veronica was saying, she's mentioning that if you're gonna pick for like the Board of Adjustment, let's say, and if you're gonna pick all 4 of those people, you might want to write in, and maybe I can update the ballot sheet to have, if you want to pick them as the full-time member or the alternate. That way, while you're picking, then that will help us with tallying that information.
Work. Right?
Madam Mayor, when we're looking at the Economic Development Committee and the Parks and Recreation Board, there's a number of people. Are we gonna vote multiple times so that they get a minimum of three votes, or are we just gonna take the highest vote? So if somebody got 2 votes, potentially they could be on the board, or are they gonna take a majority of the board?
It's gonna be a majority.
It's always been a majority in the past.
So it'll take at least 3 votes from the council for somebody to be on the board. Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Sabrina.
Okay. And if I could just mention one more thing about the Economic Development Committee. So right now, we have 6 members that live in the town, only 1 that does not. The bylaws state that we can have 3 members not live within the town. And so whatever those results are going to be for that night, I just want to reiterate that we do have 3 applications on board here that are not in the town, all the rest are. And so no more than 3 could be from out of the town's limits. So we would be fine in that regard if that was the way the vote went, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think you got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Good afternoon, Council. As you know, the town has been in discussions with, I believe it's 510 Village Road is the veterinarian clinic right up the road here on Village. You may recall that the town owns kind of like a teardrop piece of land, if you will. There's about a 25-foot easement, and what the discussions have been is an exchange of property, which is authorized by statute 168-271. And so this memo that is in front of you kind of describes that process. And what we're looking for is just to get that in front of you, because in July, we will have posted notice to the public, which is required by statute. So at the July meeting is when you all would vote if council chooses. Are there any questions?
Anyone? Anyone? Thank you, Josh.
All right, so we have those two items in the regular meeting. Next item then is old and new business. You have our staff reports, and there will be an opportunity for council reports as well. and then the adjournment. That's our meeting for Thursday. Any other discussion about the Thursday meeting?
Thing?
All right, thank you.
I do have one question. Under number 5, the district voting, we're gonna take public comments from the audience. We're also gonna have opportunity to discuss this as a council, is that correct? Okay.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hollis? You were saying? Okay. All right. Now we're in discussion topics. E-bike regulations. Mr. Campbell, you brought this up?
I did. For the last couple of years, the popularity of e-bikes and e-scooters and electronic means of transportation, not including cars, I'm going to talk about, has been that opportunity has been more prevalent for that mode of transportation. And I didn't know whether, that we as a town had any ordinances or any guidelines on what would be allowable on our streets. I know Wilmington has just gone through or is going through a review of their ordinances, and I think they actually passed something regarding e-bikes. I see a lot of them. Matter of fact, 2 days ago I saw one going down the street with 2 kids, back to back, young children, no helmets, no nothing, just going down the road. So I just kind of like to put it out there to see what anybody else's feelings were on whether we should have something that can give our police department or whoever guidelines for enforcing whatever we come up with.
The state was working on that. Did anything come up on, have they sent anything out on that? I haven't seen anything.
Madam Mayor, the last article that I can find is dated May 5, and it indicates that Senate Bill 970, House Bill 1084 would establish 3 classes of e-bikes and allow governments to restrict certain types on specific paths and roadways. I don't know what the status of that legislation is. I don't know how many of you have ever gotten a motorcycle license. It's not easy to get, nor should it be easy to get, but the cutoff, am I correct, is 45 miles an hour?
When you're talking about for the speed for the
Yes, sir.
so e-bikes per this bill that you're talking about, it's 750 cc's, and not to exceed on a flat surface 20 miles per hour in order for it to constitute an e-bike. And the three different levels, or 3 classes as you're talking about. So one is a pedal that doesn't exceed, or pedal assist that doesn't exceed that 20 miles per hour. The other is a non-pedal assist that essentially you don't have to pedal, that doesn't exceed that 20 mile per hour threshold. And then that third class that they talk about within that bill that you just referenced, it does exceed that 20, but I don't believe it goes over 30, if my memory serves me correct. But that is where, in the bill, they're looking to add parts to that bill or that law that will require an age limit of at least age 16 in order to operate those bikes. And they would be required to also wear helmets as well when operating those, but that's at that class 3 e-bike inside of that bill. So 28 and 30 miles per hour with that class 3, but I don't know about the 45. Anything above that would be considered per that bill to be a moped.
which would also require tags and insurance, but not a driver's license in order to operate it.
And will they, if that legislation passed, would they be allowed to ride the e-bikes in the bike lane, or must they ride them on the sidewalks?
It should follow the same rules as cycling on the roadway, but there is some, and I heard you say reference, or one of you referenced something about an ordinance earlier. There is some language that is being looked at, not necessarily with this bill, but where some municipalities are looking at where those, depending upon that threshold of that 20-mile-an-hour or the Class 3, which they've said is prohibited from being used on multi-use paths or in your parks, or multi-use paths, or in your bike lanes.
Chief, is there any pending legislation or any ordinances or rules regarding motorized skateboards?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's the same thing.
Are we prohibited from including in a ordinance motorized skateboards? And I say that because you and Mr. Campbell may be aware of this, but there's a gentleman in Magnolia Greens who has a motorized skateboard, and I don't know how fast he's going, but I would bet if
He flies down Grand Flora.
I was just gonna say, I bet if your guy with the speed gun was out there, he would be exceeding probably 25 on Pine Harvest. And so he has zipped around the corner. I think he thinks he's surfing or something on veranda, and come close to wiping out people who are walking their dogs or coming around, that area. So if there is no prohibitions to us adding some sort of restrictions to that, and I'm looking at Mr. Coggins down there, then I would also say that if we're going to do that with e-bikes, that we include motor, if it exceeds a certain speed limit, then it needs to be regulated to some extent, because it's a danger.
It's capable of exceeding.
If it's capable of exceeding a certain speed limit, then I think it's something, if we're going to look at e-bikes, we probably need to take a look at that, because right now, especially living on the corner of that block, it scares the nonsense out of me every time he comes around the corner, because I just know I'm going to watch somebody get taken out by him.
I would also suggest, if we're going to look at that as well, to also include scooters. Because there are some electric scooters as well. My son rides an electric scooter, so there are.
Are there commercial scooters, Chief?
There are. Well, some of your larger cities do offer that as a.
Here in Leland, have you seen that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Have you seen that in Leland?
Like a line bike, or no, we haven't seen that.
Not here, no.
Yeah, I've had a couple of complaints. People walking the multi-path, and kids come up on e-bikes, and they said they don't look like they're 12 years old, and telling them to move out of the way so they can go on. They don't have to slow down any. So something is going to have to be done, especially with all the kids and all in our playground now, and our multi-use path.
There was a complaint on social media because someone came around the multi-use path and found a spark with one of those things that almost taken folks out one day. So I think it's time, Chief.
And the having something that would give us some guidance on that would be helpful. I will say that too. There will be some challenges that we will end up facing, in regards to that, to determine whether or not an e-bike does or doesn't exceed that 20-mile-an-hour threshold, or if it meets that CC level or exceeds that CC level that would put it over that 20-mile-an-hour threshold. Hopefully, maybe something that our legislature is doing will help us to navigate that in order to better identify that as well with that guidance. But as it sits right now, it will be challenging right now to be able to differentiate what does and doesn't meet that threshold or exceeds that threshold for us.
Madam Mayor, I listened to Councilman Heyer regarding the state's consideration, and did it not say that it would be to allow municipalities?
Yes, sir.
So it doesn't really, it didn't sound like the state was setting a standard. It was saying, we're going to let the individual municipalities decide what they want to do rather than the state set it, so.
I'll be happy to share this article with you all. It does provide some guidelines. It doesn't allow us to address it in any way we want to, but it gives some guidelines.
I've got work. Okay. Anyone else got anything to add?
So what are we we're gonna ask staff to look at developing,
That's what I said. I said you got your work set out.
I would like to see staff look at if there's, besides Wilmington, if there's somebody else out there who's already gone through the work. I'd be curious as to what other folks are doing within the state. Hopefully they've passed the, it's legal in the state threshold, and then maybe have staff make recommendations to us.
The beach members of the MPO, they're all struggling with this.
Yeah.
So would it be the council's consensus that we see what plays out with this bill from the state before we look to try to address something from an ordinance side?
We're gonna have to.
well, I don't know about that.
Look at your attorney.
Okay, attorney. Do we have to wait on the state?
Look into what the status of the law is right now. The bill may or may not become law.
Right.
And then adjust depending on when the law comes out.
But if let's just say it does not become law, does that preclude the municipalities from setting? In other words, like I said, Wilmington, I believe, just adopted their ordinance to regulate this issue, and the state hasn't passed anything yet.
Municipalities have general authority to regulate activity on public streets within its boundaries.
Uh-huh.
Is that broad enough to regulate all aspects of transportation? That may not yet be decided.
Can you lean into the mic, please?
Well, yes. Municipalities have broad authority to regulate activity on public streets within its boundaries. But I hesitate to say that that means under all circumstances you can impose any kind of rule you want on any form of transportation.
Right. But are you saying that would preclude us from moving ahead with this?
No, I'm just saying that you would want me to review it. And
well, that's what we pay you for, of course.
I was gonna say, we can also do some research with some of the surrounding municipalities and provide you like an update, if that would be sufficient, at our next month's meeting, to provide an update.
That would be great. That would be great.
That's good.
Madam Mayor, may I ask one? We don't have an ordinance that requires anyone riding a bike to wear a helmet, do we?
That's just a state law.
Okay, folks, I think at minimum, that might be a good place to start if we do address that.
You had something?
I was going to suggest that we at least see who has written one based on what the law is currently. Have the staff go back and tell us, and that way get an idea of what, as I said earlier, what is and isn't legal right now, because they would have passed that test, and go from that. I know the School of Government has an article from November 5th, 2025, on the current state of electric bicycles in the law. So that probably is a good starting point for.
Yeah, as a bit of an aside to Mr. Heyer's recommendation for a helmet, I've got a granddaughter that is visiting, working in Delaware, and she was on her scooter. Fortunately, had a helmet and got hit by a hit-and-run driver, and she looks like she went 9 rounds with Joe Frazier. So, sometimes you can legislate things like helmets, and
yes,
they're good things, and some people choose not to follow that. But
okay, Jeremy.
I'll have you I'll have an update for you at next month's meeting.
Okay.
Take that, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, I hate to do this, but I want to call it just a 5-minute break, please.
Okay.
The recess is now over, and we will continue on with Unified Development Ordinance. Mr. Ben.
Again, last month you received the draft of Article 9 of the UDO. This is the article that talks about nonconformities, what they are, how we deal with them, the different types of them. A nonconformity is something that is lawfully established based on the rules at the time, and then after it is established, the rules change, which makes something no longer compliant with the rules that are on the books today. Sometimes this is referred to as grandfathering something in. That's a term that we don't like to use anymore in the planning profession, but nonetheless, a lot of what is in this article, some of what is in this article is from the existing ordinance. Some of it is new, but aligns with the spirit and intent. But overall, this is the article that talks about what those nonconformities are, how we deal with them in particular situations based on what they are. So I'll stop there and entertain any feedback or questions that you may have.
Anyone? Any comments on this?
No, I have nothing.
I have nothing at this time. I look forward to the month to read it and do a little digesting.
I would think the question is, what do you foresee is going to be an issue?
As related to this article,
Yes. Insofar as it changes things, what do you foresee to be an issue that we're going to run into?
I don't foresee any changes. Our nonconformity language right now is has some room for improvement and addition, and that's what this does. It doesn't overall create any new type of situation that is fundamentally different than how we address nonconformities currently.
So it wouldn't result in any further restrictions on private property use that presently exist?
I would say that's correct. So again, this is an article that you all received prior to this meeting with the intent of discussing it today. If you haven't had a chance to discuss it or review it rather, and you have some feedback, that's fine. Just reach out, maybe pass it on through Mr. Hollis, and then that can get to me if you have any feedback for this article moving forward.
Madam Mayor, just to clarify, we did Article 9 last month. We'll vote on Article 9 Thursday.
No action is going to happen on this UDO until sometime in the spring. You receive an article 1 month, and then we'll talk about it the following month. So last month you got Article 9. There may be a little bit of confusion there because I erroneously attached the wrong article into the agenda package, but then Sabrina followed up with an email a few weeks ago. It's a relatively short chapter. So if there's no feedback on Article 9, we'll put that one on the shelf. The next item under discussion topics is item 8.3. This is Article 10, which you are getting today and seeing that for the first time, and that's the one we'll discuss next month.
Veronica?
Ben, in Article 9, were differences or changes highlighted? Normally we see the red.
Right. With this effort, because there are so many changes that are being made, I mean, we're essentially writing a new ordinance, so it would be very difficult to show you what is different. In the comments section, if there's something that we feel is significant to point out, whether that be a significant difference or something that is essentially the same, we do that through showing the comment.
Actually, I'm asking that really looking at the current one that you just gave us, because this one is probably going to come, I'll use a pun, come home to roost sooner than we think. And so I'm trying to determine what is currently in place versus what might be new.
You're talking about the enforcement part right now? Okay.
When it's coming up for discussion next month.
Right. I will point out some highlights where I can just talk about them very briefly as you think about it over the next couple of weeks leading up to next month. For violations and enforcement, some things that are fundamentally different are very clear establishment of the enforcement procedure. Essentially, it sets out a process of sending 3 notices of violation and then referring the case to the town attorney team. Another fundamental difference is the dollar amount for civil penalties. They are a per-day calculation now, which is going to make it very much easier to administer and understand for both staff and the public. So the dollar amounts have gone up. The reason for that being is that we're getting rid of the language that says every day is a new violation. So instead of that, we're just saying it's a certain dollar amount per day, which makes it easier to calculate. It also means that the dollar amount doesn't accumulate to the point where it's unreasonable if we had to go to courts to ask for some sort of court order compliance. So those are, I think, the two main fundamental differences for this Article 10 that you're going to be reviewing over the next month.
Thank you.
Frank?
So are we to hold our questions till next month, or are we to ask our questions now?
For Article 10, we'll discuss that next month. If you have questions on Article 9, we can discuss that currently. I also did just want to point out that violations and enforcement relate to zoning code. So things that are related to animal control or nuisance follow their own violation procedures elsewhere in the ordinance.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, you still up?
We're good. Oh, well, just, again, we're just passing on 8.3, excuse me, 8.3 is just passing on Article 10, so we'll discuss that next month.
Okay,
All right?
thank you. Potential ceremonial recognitions and presentations.
Yes, Mayor
Sabrina
and Council. Councilmember Heyer has a few recognitions that he would like to request of the council to be placed on Thursday evening's agenda. One is for the 2026 Governor Volunteer Service Award. Another is for the Lincoln Teacher of the Year. And then he'd also like to see about just introducing pastor of the First Baptist Church. Questions from the council about those items?
Go ahead.
I know you mentioned the pastor of the First Baptist Church, and we certainly want to welcome. They have a large congregation. I just caution us that we have people, large congregations whose pastors and whose physical buildings are not in the town of Leland. The one that comes to mind for me is the synagogue.
Okay.
And so when they change rabbis, we need to be consistent in who we greet and acknowledge, and also it does not need to look like we as a form of government are showing favoritism to a particular religion or body. That's my 2 cents. That's not speaking for the council, that's just me saying.
Okay, this sounds like a good discussion. Anybody wants to chime in? Leland, you're shaking your head.
No, I certainly understand. I do understand.
Bob? Frank? Okay, so what do you do?
Could I guess I'm asking you to approve it as written.
I agree I don't have anything against approving it, but I agree with Councilmember Carter that, if we're going to do this, we're taking a step in a direction that we might want to consider where the future takes us.
I mean, it's kind of like when we had the complaints about prayer. And so how we changed that to make it work. Frank, you got something?
I haven't raised my hand yet, so if you got something, go.
You got something else?
Well, no, I just, again, we took an oath to support and defend the U.S. Constitution, and, we are a government. And so we need to be careful about how we proceed with showing any form of favoritism towards favoring a religion at all or one religion over another.
Yes, ma'am. So noted. If we may, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if we may, I don't don't mean to move on unless everyone's ready to. I was gonna ask, in July, could we bring one person from the Ghost Crabs baseball team in to the agenda meeting to introduce him? He's not able to come to the regular meeting because of their playing schedule. We looked at June and July. They have games on both the third Thursday in June and the third Thursday in July. He'll be going back to UNC Greensboro. He's a North Brunswick High School grad who's been playing for the Ghost Crabs. I thought it would be nice to introduce him that evening as well.
Right?
Circling back, this particular pastor at the First Baptist Church, why this guy?
So you may remember that First Baptist has come up a couple of times, and it seems that the council has had a rocky relationship with that church, as they reported to me, over the last 10 or 15 years. I know we have some transportation issues adjacent to their property. I just thought this might be a nice opportunity to ensure that we have a good relationship with that congregation and its members going forward.
You know, that may upset the church next to it because they've got a new pastor.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was going to be the point I was going to make. There's a number of denominations in town that have, in the last several months, have brought in new pastors and or leaders of the church. And while I do not oppose an invocation at the meeting, I don't want to give the appearance that we're endorsing a particular church or religion. And while I'm not certain that this would, I'm not certain that some people wouldn't see it that way.
Okay. Would it be more appropriate, just trying to be creative here, would it be more appropriate to ask him to give the invocation?
The same thing.
That's come up before too. Here's what I would do. If I wanted somebody to meet someone, tell them to come to the meeting, sign up in public comment, introduce themselves. Veronica?
Just so you know, the rocky road that you're talking about is the fact that the church didn't want to basically follow a town ordinance. So I wouldn't call that a rocky road. That's not necessarily saying that we didn't get along with them or anything like that. But again, this is, I was trying to be as tactful as possible to say that what we don't want to do as a government is to appear to be endorsing or not endorsing one church, denomination, religion, or anything else. And we set a precedent that if we're going to introduce him, we're going to have to introduce Woodburn, we're going to have to introduce every church in the area, and then some that aren't even in the area but have massive denominations. I have been told that 50% of both of the synagogues in Wilmington, 50% of their congregants live in Leland.
I'm open.
That it's only been within the last 4 years, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision just on the use of prayer at the beginning of a town meeting. The constitutional issues are complex. And whether or not that would cross the line or not, I don't know, but it is inviting a challenge.
Open to any direction that you guys wish to provide on.
I like the idea that the mayor stated that, if I'm somebody new in town, whether I be an executive director of a nonprofit or a pastor, I sign up for public comment and say, hi, I'm the new kid in town. I'm glad to be here. You can come on and worship with me or not worship with me, to all come and that kind of thing, and do it that way. Then it's on them coming to speak at public comment as opposed to appearing as a board that we are favoring, not favoring, missing somebody, slighting somebody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I did the same thing when Dr. Bodish retired. He wanted me to introduce his new person, the one that was taking over his practice. And I told him I couldn't do that, but if he could come in and sign up for public comment and introduce himself as new doctor in town.
Okay, so would you guys like for that particular recognition to occur in public? I don't know if it would even be called a recognition if it's in public comment. I'm sorry to confuse the two.
I wouldn't put recognition.
Thank you. I'll go back and just ask him if he'd like to speak during public comment. I think would suggest maybe that would be the appropriate time and place to do that. I'll be glad to do that.
I think we're in agreement, Bob.
Yeah, so take it off the recognition and
And I hate to do that because I'm you know, I love my pastor and all, but I've never recognized him.
Okay. So we would just leave the two, Mr. Dick and Mrs. Maxim on the
Right.
on the recognition and ask Pastor Smith if he, and again, for Thursday night, that would be the second public comment, not the first, since it's not germane to the voting district.
Yeah, Mr. Heyer, I'd probably recommend he come in August, and if you want, if the council wants, I can add him to public comment first, if we can confirm that.
I'll offer, if he can't come in August, are you okay if he comes, Thursday?
I mean, that's fine, I'm just saying you're gonna have the special public comment, so he will have to be here for a while, that's all, maybe.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
why August as opposed to July?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a whole month, July.
Okay.
Was there any other recognitions that any of the other council members had?
I don't have any.
Okay, and then to follow up with what Mr. Heyer said, as far as the young gentleman for the July agenda meeting, recognizing him at that meeting, was that a consensus of the council?
Great, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody got anything else for Sabrina on this? Okay, thank you, Sabrina. Next month's discussion topics are due to the town clerk on July 1st, 2026. And older new business, anyone have any?
Just to follow up earlier from Ms. Carter's question during the grant presentation, we received a total of $996,724 in grant proceeds for Founders Park. The breakdown of that is a SCIF grant for $250,000 towards Perry Avenue, a charging stations grant for the EV charging stations, $7,724, a Part F grant for $489,000. The TDA gave us $250,000. And then for the bike amenities, the bike fixing station, they actually just gave us the fixing station, and it was worth about $2,500. So that wasn't dollars received, but we received the tangible items to install into the park.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just to follow up on one item for the agenda on Thursday night. After the special public comment period, Mr. Pendleton had mentioned a discussion, being able to discuss that item as well. Should we add that discussion to the agenda in between those two special comment periods, just to make it very clear that there will be discussion of council on that item?
I think that should be.
Okay.
E-bike will be next month.
So this is about the voting district.
I see, okay.
So have a particular item there for discussion about the voting district.
Okay.
All right, we'll add that. Thank you.
Else got anything? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next meeting day of the agenda council meeting date is July 13th, 2026 at Town Hall, 1:00 p.m. or shortly thereafter.